Kentucky Derby is decadent and depraved. I got off the plane around midnight, and no one spoke as I crossed the dark runway to the terminal. The air was thick and hot, like wandering into a steam bath. Inside, people hugged each other and shook hands. Big grins and a whoop here and there. By God, you old bastard. Good to see you, boy. Damn good, and I mean it. In the air-conditioned lounge, I met a man from Houston who said his name was something or other, but just called me Jimbo, and he was here to get it on. I'm ready for anything, by God, anything at all. Yeah, what are you drinking? I ordered a margarita with ice, but he wouldn't hear of it. No, what the hell kind of drink is that for Kentucky Derby time? What's wrong with you, boy? He grinned and winked at the bartender. God damn, we gotta educate this boy. Get him some good whiskey. I shrugged. Okay, a double fits on ice. Jimbo nodded his approval. Look, he tapped me on the arm to make sure I was listening. I know this Derby crowd. I come here every year, and let me tell you one thing I've learned. This is no town to be giving people the impression you're some kind of hippie. Not in public, anyway. Shit, they'll roll you in a minute, knock you in the head, and take every goddamn cent you have. I thanked him and fitted a Marlboro into my cigarette holder. Say, he said, you look like you might be in the horse business. Am I right? No, I said, I'm a photographer. Oh, yeah? He had my ragged leather bag with new interest. Is that what you got in there? Cameras? Who you work for? Playboy, I said. He laughed. Well, goddamn, what are you going to take pictures of? Naked horses? Huh, I guess you'll be working pretty hard when they run the Kentucky Oaks. That's a race just for fillies. He was laughing wildly. Hell yes, and they'll all be naked, too. I shook my head and said nothing, just stared at him for a moment, trying to look grim. There's going to be trouble, I said. My assignment is to take pictures of the riot. What riot? I hesitated, twirling the ice in my drink. At the track, on Derby Day. The Black Panthers. I stared at him again. Don't you read the newspapers? The grin on his face had collapsed. What the hell are you talking about? Well, maybe I shouldn't be telling you, I shrugged. But hell, everybody else seems to know. The cops and the National Guard have been getting ready for 6 weeks. They have 20,000 troops on alert at Fort Knox. They've warned us, all the press and photographers, to wear helmets and special vests like flak jackets. We were told to expect shooting. No, he shouted. His hands flew up and hovered momentarily between us, as if to ward off the words he was hearing. Then he whacked his fist on the bar. Those sons of bitches. God almighty, the Kentucky Derby. He kept shaking his head. No, Jesus, that's almost too bad to believe. Now he seemed to be sagging on the stool. And when he looked up, his eyes were misty. Why? Why here? Don't they respect anything? I shrugged again. It's not just the Panthers. The FBI says busloads of white crazies are coming in from all over the country to mix with the crowd and attack all at once from every direction. They'll be dressed like everybody else, you know, coats and ties and all that. But when the trouble starts, well, that's why the cops are so worried. He sat for a moment, looking hurt and confused and not quite able to digest all this terrible news. Then he cried out, "Oh, Jesus, what in the name of God is happening in this country? Where can he get away from it?" Not here, I said, picking up my bag. Thanks for the drink, and good luck. He grabbed my arm, urging me to have another. But I said I was overdue at the press club and hustled off to get my act together for the awful spectacle. At the airport newsstand, I picked up a Courier Journal and scanned the front page headlines. Nixon sends GIs into Cambodia to hit the Reds. B-52s raid, then 20,000 GIs advance 20 miles. 4,000 U.S. troops deployed near Yale as tension grows over Panther protest. At the bottom of the page was a photo of Diane Crump, soon to become the first woman jockey ever to ride in the Kentucky Derby. The photographer had snapped her, stopping in the barn area to fondle her mount, Fathom. The rest of the paper was spotted with ugly war news and stories of student unrest. There was no mention of any trouble brewing at a university in Ohio called Kent State. I went to the Hertz desk to pick up my card, but the moon-faced young swinger in charge said they didn't have any. You can't rent one anywhere, he assured me. Our Derby reservations have been booked for 6 weeks. I explained that my agent had confirmed a white Chrysler convertible for me that very afternoon, but he shook his head. Maybe we'll have a cancellation. Where are you staying? I shrugged. Where's the Texas crowd staying? I want to be with my people. He sighed. My friend, you're in trouble. This town is flat full. Always is for the Derby. I leaned closer to him, half whispering. Look, I'm from Playboy. How would you like a job? He backed off quickly. What? Come on now, what kind of a job? Never mind, I said. You just blew it. I swept my bag off the counter and went to find a cab. The bag is a valuable prop. in this kind of work. Mine has a lot of baggage tags on it. SF, LA, NY, Lima, Rome, Bangkok, that sort of thing. And the most prominent tag of all is a very official plastic-coated thing that says Photog, Playboy Mag. I bought it from a pimp in Vail, Colorado, and he told me how to use it. Never mention Playboy until you're sure they've seen this thing first, he said. Then, when you see them notice it, that's the time to strike. They'll go belly up every time. This thing is magic, I tell you. Pure magic. Well, maybe so. I'd used it on the poor geek in the bar, and now, humming along in a yellow cab towards town, I felt a little guilty about jangling the poor bugger's brains with that evil fantasy. But what the hell? Anybody who wanders around the world saying, "Hell yes, I'm from Texas," deserves what happens to him. Oh, yeah. And he had, after all, come here once again to make a 19th century ass of himself in the midst of some jaded, atavistic freakout with nothing to recommend it except a very saleable tradition. Early in our chat, Jimbo had told me that he hadn't missed a derby since 1954. "The little lady won't come anymore," he said. "She just grits her teeth and turns me loose for this one. And when I say loose, I do mean loose. I tossed $10 bills around like they were going out of style. Horses, whiskey, women. Shit, there's women in this town that'll do anything for money. Why not? Money is a good thing to have in these twisted times. Even Richard Nixon is hungry for it. Only a few days before the Derby, he said, if I had any money, I'd invest it in the stock market." And the market, meanwhile, continued its grim slide.